again, dear friend. You've come a bit earlier than I expected this evening. I've still got a few chores to do. Okay, so I know that the pile of dishes looks exactly the same from the last time you came here, but, you have to understand that I do chores. I'm clean. No, the mushrooms growing out of the corner are intentional. I'm cultivating. I'd like to see your house, thank you. Forgive me. I'll get to all that after you leave. For now, though, actually, I need to go out back if you want to follow. I clean my cabin. Oh, him? Yeah, this little fellow wandered up to my cabin a few months ago. I didn't know where the devil a goat could come from. I don't mean to imply that this is the devil. He's an actual goat. He's just blonde, tan. You can trust me. I'm feeding you, don't worry, hon. I'm a woodland witch. I take care of all the natural woodland creatures. You can pet him if you'd like. Aw, he likes you. What do you mean he's got a symbol tattooed under his ear? I told you, it's not a demonic thing. He's an actual... Let me see. Oh no. I'll be right back. Fuck me. Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry. Damnant ereverim ego zum stultis meum quad capra.
I have been like this for months.
Hey there, hon. I was wondering why your letters didn't.
Been like this for months.
How has the academy been?
Why did you not notice that I was turned into a goat for 3 months?
Well, it was more like 2.
Holy shit, I thought you would notice immediately. I kept pointing out my stuffed head.
This is my boyfriend, Zuma the Puma.
Stop changing the subject. I even spelled my name.
You know I can't read, hon. I'm a fox.
What do you mean you can't read?
Anyways, Zuma's been studying magic at the Academy of,
You can fully read. You're an adult.
At the Academy of blah blah blah, nerdy book I can read.
It's supposed to be a joke, right? Like, you know how to read.
Yes, it was a joke, hon. I am a comedian.
I've been a goat, for 3 months. What part of this merits the stand-up special?
I'm sorry, honey. Can I give you a kiss?
No.
Please, I love you.
I'm a goat.
You're a cute goat. Magic. Who knows what zany stuff happens at those magic schools. You'd expect that sort of thing to happen to a freelance witch like myself, but c'est la vie. And also, I'm amazing.
It's going to be a while before I recover from this mentally. Also, you know the name of the school.
Yeah, but I didn't want to let the guests know that I'm totally not breaking the fourth wall. I actually haven't come up with a cool name for it yet in the canon. But for now, it's Nerd School. It's the nerd school that you go to. I love you.
I love you too.
Want to help me share a story with my guest? He likes my weird, witchy, esoteric stories.
Fine, but I'm getting drunk.
As you should.
Goat.
Yes, you were, my love. Don't worry, he wasn't there the first time you came here. Imagine if he was a goat the whole time.
Now imagine if I was a goat for literally only 1 day instead of 3 months.
Welcome to the foxhole at Foxxo Esoterica. I promise I was sober when I wrote this. Welcome back to Foxxo Esoterica, the podcast where I'm only just now realizing that a good 2/3 of the subject matter pertains to cryptids. Ghosts and aliens, you need to step up if you want to impress me. I'm your host, 4th City Fox, top shelf werewolf bait, and tonight is a very special episode, folks, because I'm recording out of Germany. I know that I've brought it up on the podcast before, but I am currently affianced to a Deutsch Puma named Zuma.
That's not how you pronounce. That's not grammatically correct. Oh, never mind me. I'm not even here.
I'm learning the language, I promise. Anyway, he's going to be my guest for the evening, if it wasn't already clear from his inclusion in the cold open. Backstory time. I tried to move out to Germany to live with my boyfriend like a year ago, and then everything globally went horribly wrong. So we've had to wait 1.5 years until one of us gets vaccinated and is able to cross international borders. And this month, we've finally been able to do that. While we are doing a podcast, a good deal of the trip is going to be figuring out the logistics of me eventually applying for a visa and living here come September as the end goal. So stay tuned for fun expat podcast material. Who knows? Probably not. That feels like effort. Enough about me, though. Let's talk about werewolves again. I promise you this isn't going to be turning into a werewolf podcast, but by Lupa herself, I'll be damned if I don't do research to the local lycanthropic scene of a place before deciding to live there. And thankfully, Germany's werewolf history is almost as thick and deep as the werewolf's fur itself. Let's go with fur. So without further ado, let's talk about werewolves. I don't have anything else to plug. Yeah, Foxxo Esoterica abroad. This is the first episode that I just am recording in a different country. I think I explained all the whole premise of our vacation / everything contextually in the cold open and then the hot open that we haven't recorded yet. But everybody welcome Zuma the Puma!
Hi everyone, I'm Zuma the Puma and I'm Forseti Fox's boyfriend. Yeah.
It's my first episode with the boyfriend on the podcast because it's the first podcast that I've been able to see him.
Also your first podcast was a German.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I think my first podcast was an international person,
Ooh.
like in general.
So cosmopolitan, you're really moving up in the world.
Oh yeah. I'm actually we're gonna try to like sprechen irgendwas Deutsch immediately going poorly. Because I'm good at speaking German. I'm gonna get into other stuff and then you can like introduce yourself or whatever. But for this past week, we've just been doing like all of the... We actually just had a little vacation lately. We've been doing a lot of like, here's how wedding stuff's gonna work, here's how visa stuff's gonna work, but now we're just chilling. And I've weirdly been learning how to like drive a manual car. And it's been like, also I learned it in German. And I also haven't killed anybody in a car yet.
Yeah, you could have had 2 ghosts on the podcast if you had succeeded in your not stick driving.
Or failed in learning how to drive clutch when your dad taught it to me in German.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, that was a fun little anecdote, and also a brag. What's your deal? Talk about yourself. What do you want in life?
Well, I want to be a teacher one day. Bring history and the English language to my students and all that. Well, aside from that, I don't really even know what I could talk about that wouldn't incriminate me to the actual identity of myself to the whole world.
That's fair. But I feel like this is a furry podcast already, so like... Yeah,
I mean, I'm a Puma, obviously. It's like in my name, and my, the given name there even rhymes with it. So, Puma Force all the way, except for when I was a bear years ago.
Puma Force? Eddie?
What?
Puma Force? Eddie? Like Forseti? Like it's me?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You were like Puma Force all the way, and I was like Puma Force Eddie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that like a name that I should know?
Yeah.
Like Forseti? Is that... Oh, was it not this Celtic goddess or something?
Norwegian, you fool. You failed. You stumbled.
Yes, I failed, absolutely.
Puma's on the podcast now, and it's very cute, and I'm cuddling him now.
I hope they can't hear the rustling of my Robin Hood t-shirt.
Ooh.
I'm very trash.
I'm wearing a brown shirt and also underwear. I'm just not wearing pants right now.
Fair. I mean, I'm only wearing my sports pants, so, it's not the most fashionista episode you've done, I suppose.
Okay. I'm still wearing a hat.
Yeah, I'm still wearing the hat.
Hat stays on.
Yep. It's always. All the goddamn time. Once catch them with it under the shower, it was disturbing.
Well, they can dry. It's like not like most clothes go in the wash. Why can't your hat?
Yeah, that's what I told us in the Navy. Oh, god damn it. I wasn't meant to say details about myself. There you have it.
He was in the Navy for like a sec.
It was 2 or 3 months at least. 3 months, I think.
Do you want to talk about it or no?
I mean, I would talk about it if I've been out to sea because I could have like seen sirens or something, I guess. But I was never at sea or ever held a gun, so.
Would you like some more kraterliche Flamingo Jagd?
Jagd.
Jagd?
Yes, it's a herbal, by the way, for the listeners.
Oh yeah, we went to the Erica. Did I spill? Damn it. Talk. I'm getting paper towels.
What am I supposed to talk about? We got this.
You were literally telling a story about the Navy.
No, I wasn't telling a story about the Navy. I was telling a story about how there's no stories about the Navy to tell because I was there for only 3 months.
An anecdote. Then.
Let me think. I'm a horrible swimmer. Everybody always told me that that's a good thing to be in the Navy because that'll make me all the more, encouraged to defend the ship to the last second and all that. It's like once I'm in the water, I'm dead.
I don't think I knew that, but that's
it actually used to be a suspicion, not suspicion, a superstition, that it's bad luck for a sailor to know how to swim because, it's kind of offending the sea gods or whatever.
Isn't that like what they did in Naruto? Like that one anime that goes on for a really long time where it's like, oh my god, the pirate can't swim.
No, that's One Piece. Naruto's the ninja one. But yeah, I think in One Piece the main character is called, I don't know, is he called Luffy or Ruffy in English?
Luffy.
Yeah, because in German he's being called Ruffy for some reason, which always made more sense to me, and I just can't hear the name in English or Japanese because it just sounds stupid to me.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, but anyways, he can't swim because he's made out of rubber, I guess.
I've never watched it.
I actually don't know if it's because he's made out of rubber or because he's just magical and nobody that is magical can swim.
I think that's it. Because there's a lot of... so I was like watching one episode out of like 12 randomly in a random order just because people I know watch it. And then something will happen and the magical people will be like, but I can't swim.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I always thought he can't swim because he's made out of rubber, but no, it's just because he had the magic root.
Prost. Yeah. But thank you for telling us about your backstory. Now, what I always love doing on the podcast is every time I have a guest, I ask them 4 specific questions with their relationship to the paranormal. And I'm going to get made fun of, and I accept that. But here we go. First question. Do you believe in ghosts, spirits, aliens, cryptids, all of the above, none of the above? What's up?
No, I don't believe in any of it. I believe there might be aliens somewhere far away, but they've never been to Earth. And I think it's all pretty silly, to be honest.
Okay, cool. The making fun of was gentle. I'm dating a skeptic, so
it's not skepticism as much as complete refusal of it.
So if anybody ever is like, what, you're biased? Forseti Fox, every time you hear a story, you believe it? I have a built-in foil in my day-to-day life, so you can't tell me about it more than he does.
Yeah, that's correct, actually.
Yeah.
I'm very mean about it.
I think we were having a conversation. Oh, yeah, we were talking about before the podcast. We're going to work this in somehow. We were literally walking a dog in the woods last night, and I was like, hun, what scares you the most?
I said the Holocaust. You did specifically make it about, ghosts and whatever, but I don't know, I feel like it's scarier than ghosts.
Yeah, obviously. Not even, it's just...
Yeah, I'm thinking outside the Fox with my answers to him, to be honest.
I can't believe you made a pun.
Yeah.
Was that organic? Did that feel good? We were talking about it before the podcast. We had to bring that story up somehow. Was that good? Did that work?
I think, yeah. I mean, there's really no better way to work a pre-recorded Holocaust joke in here.
Yeah, I didn't write it into the script. As you can see, you can't. Nobody can. It's auditory medium, but I think I cut out part of the script. Anyway, do you have any experience? Second question. Do you have any experiences with ghosts or anything?
Only the stories I am made up to scare my friends, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But that's about it. Let me think. No, I don't think I ever had anything. I think when I was a kid, I once went up to the, how do you get wind energy again? with
wind turbine.
With wind turbines, the little windmill things.
Yeah.
And I went up to them, and one day they were just turned completely in the other direction. Remember it? One day they were in the north, next day they were suddenly just standing toward the south.
Whoa!
So I ran home to my dad and I was like, Dad, the windmills, they're turning. But I explained to him that I meant that they were doing the, I don't know the mathematical term for it, but actually turning around in terms of from north to south instead of just around and around.
Twisting.
That's but it turned out
term.
They were twisting from side to side, I guess. And,
I made that up.
But yeah, they just do that. They can move into the wind where the airstream is coming from. But I thought it was ghosts.
Oh my god, I don't think I knew that until right now.
Well, why would you think about it?
We have one wind turbine in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I didn't think about it, even though I drove past them every day. It's it just kind of appeared to me one day that they were changing directions. I was like, oh no, is this like a branched timeline in which the most boring one?
Mandela effect by the goddamn wind turbines.
The most boring alternate timeline of all of all time, of all existence. Just somebody decided to build them to the north instead of south.
That's so good. I think I would have actually been freaked out if I saw, because we walk by them often here in the tiny town of a German town. I don't know if you want me to dox you today.
Well, I mean,
we're not gonna live
we're
here.
in the Lüneburger Heide. It's the town of. It's in the Ostheide, in the eastern Heide of Lüneburg. So I don't know. It's not that big. It's Neze.
It's the same size of town that Schoolcraft is.
It's actually twice as big as Schoolcraft.
It feels like the same size.
It feels like it's smaller, to be honest.
Yeah, actually.
But there's more people in it. I don't know. Maybe it's higher density, I guess.
I guess houses are smaller.
Yeah, houses are smaller. They're tighter together. More people in a house. Maybe I don't know.
That makes sense. Anyway, the third question I have, and you can answer it with your own degrees of comfortability. But are you religious at all? / are you more agnostic and think of things through a critical scientific lens? And then piggybacking off of that, how does the existence of the supernatural or paranormal feed into your religious / agnostic experiences and beliefs?
Well, I would say I'm agnostic, definitely. I usually only get religious when I'm drunk, and only in the most broadest of terms.
Wait, what do you mean?
I get
I've seen you drunk.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah.
You just get communist.
I kind of moved past that phase, I guess, but I need to be really drunk, and there needs to be the right music on for that. Finnish death metal or something like that, and then I'm suddenly really into Odin and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. You don't just be like, oh, you know what? God exists now.
Oh no,
you do
no,
the really
no,
cool pagan thing.
Yeah, the pagan.
Pump it up.
Stuff. Oh yeah, pump it up. That's actually what I do. I just
I was
give
gonna
people
actually fist bump you.
I'm not gonna give you that satisfaction.
He did it! Oh my god!
It's giving people fist bumps, but so hard that I break their knuckles.
Thank you for the fist bump, Harm.
A really good feeling usually. Yeah.
Ow! Wow, that one was really hard.
I'm really agnostic about everything. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in anything. I think the existence we have is pretty depressing and sad, to be honest. And for that reason, I also don't really believe in any supernatural stuff because, I guess it would just be too nice to have some kind of evidence for an afterlife or whatever. When you have ghosts or something. So I just think we're just kind of in this for the short haul and they're just kind of going once the brain stops working.
Yeah, I disagree. I think I'm going to become a mushroom when I die.
Well, mushrooms might eat into your body.
Yeah,
that's becoming that.
That's what that means for it, baby.
Sure.
Anyway, finally cracking open this beer. You've listened to the podcast. I love getting that sick ASMR, but I'll do it in a second because the encyclopedic collection will be Irimabu Phantasma, along with a few excerpts from the Folked Up collection. And the potion brewed will be... Oh, my script says some German beer. Finally, it's so nice to be drinking this.
Yeah, that's just exactly what the script says. Understand?
Yeah, because I just really think German beer is fucking better than American beer. And that's my hot take. Everybody disagrees with me.
It is funny that you chose this beer for that particular podcast.
It's...
I can speak it out for you if you want.
I can phonetically speak German. It's Astra... I guess it's Urtyp by Astra. Is it not Urtyp?
No, it's Astra Urtyp. That means that it's the original type of Astra, which is beer that is brewed in Hamburg, actually.
Woo.
It's pretty popular in the general area here because we're pretty close to Hamburg. We're like in the, I guess you could call it the mid-north, if you want to get precise. Yeah. I've been told by people that this doesn't even count as the north.
We're on the cusp.
Not even the cusp, like this is the north, but some people are being assholes about it.
ASMR for everybody.
Yeah. And as you can see, it has a lot of maritime imagery on there because, Hamburg, sailors, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, we got a skull and crossbones on fire and a boat and an anchor. And it's really nice. It's a Pilsner. It tastes like really good and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, it's hard to mess up beer in Germany because if it's not beer, it just kind of isn't called beer.
Yeah. We watched a TV show about that, I think.
Did we?
Oktoberfest.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah, that was Munich, though. They're even weirder.
The opposite end of the country. Also, not for naught, I think we mentioned already, but we're having the spiced liqueur.
An herbal, yeah.
Herbal. It's got a fox on it, which is why I bought it. It's kind of like Jägermeister for all the people in America that are only familiar with that, because it's the only one we have.
Yeah.
But it has a fox on it, so that's why we got it.
Eventually we'll have to, I wanted to get a bottle of that when we were still down in North Rhine-Westphalia.
Which we will be soon.
Yes. It's
Doxing us.
A bottle of Killer Pitch for our drinking habits, which is also an herbal, but unlike most of them, that one's actually red instead of greenish.
Ooh.
Because it also has like a fruitier taste, and it's from Düsseldorf, very good one. I actually prefer to Jägermeister, but I just didn't get around to get one bottle of it because it's pretty expensive. And yeah, it's called Killer Pitch, and it's actually because it was invented, or I think the owner or whatever in World War II was in a bunker, and he had a bottle with him, and was like, okay, before they kill us, we're just gonna pitch one more. And that's why it's called Killer Pitch.
Aww. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's name a liquor after almost dying.
I love German history. It's every time you learn something horrifying.
Yeah, and most of the time it relates to something even more horrifying.
Yeah.
The context there is always worse than what it's actually about.
Believe it or not, that's a segue.
Oh, is
to
it?
The introductory bit,
Aww.
But we're going back in time before the 20th century, so don't worry.
Nice.
So Puma knows this. Most of the stuff on the podcast is oh my god, here's a surprise story you've never heard. You're reacting to it. But this is a special case because I'm telling multiple stories, but the first one was the one that Puma actually shared with me first and led me down a rabbit hole I found interesting into the other stories that I'll get to.
Yeah.
But however, the two qualifiers, we're getting into the introductory bit. In the cutting that out, drinking water.
How do I not have water?
You want one?
Yeah, I want a water.
Do you want me to get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Keep the people happy.
I'm not gonna keep the people happy. You're gonna cut us out.
Oh my god. You're absolutely right.
That's why I'm bringing it up right now.
I feel weird about cutting out 1 second. I guess 12-second little bits. Here you go.
Oh, on a beer glass.
I've been knocking it over. Actually, I think I just jumped wildly, and I want to make sure everything's still recording. Yeah, we're good. That's the cue that we're back for when I'm cutting later. Alrighty. In the region between the Duster and the Weser rivers in Germany lay a stage for an old legend. For reference, the closest cities would be Hanover, Bielefeld. Oh, I don't want to talk about Hanover anymore.
Oh, you don't? Well, it wasn't Hanover's fault. It was all the cities between them.
Just gave myself a whole flashback.
I think the second one was even worse because that's actually where something happens.
Yeah.
Bielefeld.
We are on a train to get from the Essen area to here in Lüneburg.
Yeah, Düsseldorf to Lüneburg-ish.
And it was going to be a 3-hour train ride or something.
6 hours.
Because somebody planted a bomb at Bielefeld.
They had to blow it up first. No, they didn't plant a bomb in Bielefeld. They planted a bomb in Dortmund, and then somebody got in an accident in Bielefeld, so they sent an emergency thing there.
Everything went wrong, and we were on a train for 9 hours.
Yeah.
That being said, here's where the legend lay. The legend pertains to a certain people who receive a strap that allows them to transform into something a tad bit vicious, a tad bit powerful, and a tad bit hairy. Those who donned the strap gain the ability to turn into a being known as the Buxenwolf. Is it there? Probably there.
Yeah, Buxenwolf.
Cool. A voluntary werewolf who, instead of relying on the time of day or fullness of heavenly bodies, may make their lycanthropic transformation at any point in time. Perhaps one would seek for such magical artifact for their superior strength of a werewolf, or to help them engage in a bit of nocturnal robbery. Or perhaps one would wear the belt to enjoy the bulk of a werewolf, making it quite easy to convince smaller, lesser people to do your odd, weird, I'll get to it, bidding. Perhaps one would don the strap because they're furries, but don't go thinking such thing is cheaper than a fursuit. Keeping in the theme of Germany, it is a bit Faustian what one must do to become a Buxenwolf. What's up? You don't like my writing?
The Faustian bit is a little much.
Oh, it's brilliant. And I will accept your critiques in post. Faustian, inasmuch as the price one pays for one to become the Buxenwolf is to exchange your immortal soul. One must actually barter with the devil himself. And that didn't stop people from making such a deal. For many a peasant had their flour stolen outright, many a sheep went missing from these Niedersachsen pastures, and weirdly enough, many a nighttime traveler was forced to carry the Buxenwolf on their back because they didn't feel like walking.
Yeah, that's great.
This is a thing that the lycanthrope was known for. However, I'd be remiss to say that I was the one who first learned about the Buxenwolf. In fact, my guest this evening, Zuma, was the first one to introduce it to me. And it is known that I do enjoy the drama of sharing a story in which my guest knows nothing about. But however, the Buxenwolf isn't the only German dogman, not by any stretch of the imagination. There are many, many gripping, dramatic, and thickly furred tales of werewolves in Deutschland, and tonight I'm going to be sharing a few of my favorites, because I have an obsession and a fetish. But Zuma does too, so for our first episode together, there has to be something incredibly furry. So tonight on Foxxo Esoterica, we're going to be talking about the Buxenwolf, the Borenbach monster, didn't edit this, the XXX, and lastly, the werewolf of Bedburg, Peter Stubb.
Oh. Okay.
I wrote that in and we did it. Yay.
Yay.
How many of these are you familiar with?
None of them.
Yes!
Honestly, with the Buxenwolf, it was like, you just said that I brought it to your attention, but, not to smash the illusion of being the Lovecraftian local that warns you from going too deep into the forest lest you be taken over by the Eldritch forces. I googled, German myths, so I could have something to give to you.
Yay! You did this one, and then I took the path of more werewolfery. I think I'll talk about it later, but I want to get all the werewolf legends on places I lived. So we did Michigan Dogman, Beast of Bay Road, and now I gotta go to the OG source. Speaking of sources, though, here's where I got my information. Werewolf Legends from Germany by D.L. Ashleman, published at the University of Pittsburgh. A brief historical background to the werewolf myth in 16th century Germany and the execution of werewolf Peter Stump, both by Dana Rain. Those are two different articles. I Would Have Eaten You Too. Werewolf Legends in the Flemish, Dutch, and German area, written by Willem de Bellecourt. Or Blecourt. Also, we have a dog here. That isn't just a sound effect, I promise. The Werewolf of Bedburg, written by Stephen Wagner on liveabout.com.
Sorry, all the animals became agitated at once, so I checked up on them.
Oh yeah. We got 2 cats and a dog in this bitch.
And the dog's a little agitated because there's a stranger in the house.
And he's also part canine.
Yeah,
to a degree. Volpine.
Yeah, I guess.
So we just did the sources, and we're back. The first thing I want to talk about, because it was the introduction, but now we're going to go into the deep dive of it, is what is up with their Buxenwolf.
Mm-hmm.
Bada boom. The Buxenwolf. What's up with him? Here's the thing. So with Dogman stories, it's a bunch of oh my god, I was hunting with my gun in the 80s with my flannel, and I saw the Dogman. But when you do this in Germany, it's in the 15th century, old Peter Stockelberger was here's the tale I tell of what doth stole my sheep. And there are, a couple things that have happened in, the last 100 years. But, like, we're in an old European country now, so that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what the main difference between these stories and the other ones are.
They have, like, medieval abstract paintings of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I have a couple pictures, but I didn't put them in the Google Doc, but it's also a podcast, so you can't see them anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll show you in a second, because I think there's one that's important. But yeah, this is a more folkloric story than a straight-up werewolf encounter. And the books involved specifically is a recurring theme in a long list of werewolf stories in Germany. And in fact, the Boxenwolf, I'm just dropping the umlaut because I didn't want to do the alt key thing every time. I didn't have to say that out loud. That was just a little joke for me to read later to myself because I love myself. There's actually like 4 recurring werewolf legend tropes as described by the folklorist Franz Roek. And I'll get to the other 3 in a sec. But the legend of the Boxenwolf, or translated as the Trousers Wolf...
Yeah, it's not wrong.
I'll also get to that later, because that's important.
Could also do it like as Boxes Wolf.
Boxes Wolf?
Carton Wolf, yeah.
With an X? Because I feel like
yeah.
one German word out of 1,000 has an X in it.
Yeah, like Box... Like, it is probably actually Panswolf, because it's a pretty old name, so... I guess like Boxen, yeah, it would make sense to me. But in modern Germany, we just use the word box from English.
That's cute.
It's a little carryover.
Boxers.
Yeah, it's nothing cuter than cultural assimilation, I guess.
And underwear. Anyway, the legend of the Boxenwolf is usually fully identified by the fact that the werewolf is forcing you to carry it on its back. That's the defining characteristic, actually. And this folklore is tricky to pin down, actually, because most of the stories involve a pseudo-migration, where the werewolf wants to travel from point A to point B, and so often lacks an origin, because it's like, peasant walking in the nighttime, I'm on the trail between these 2 cities, uh-oh, the Boxenwolf is here. It's not the kind of legend where it's like, I wonder if Daniel from Hanover is the werewolf, because it's like, this isn't happening in a town, this is happening in the countryside, and it's happening without an origin. But that being said, the backriders, which is one of the tropes that the folklorists I talked about earlier, actually is defining the Boxenwolf as a backrider, because he's riding on the backs. But he is seen in a few other places with a few other names. He is known as the Klude or Stupe in the Aachen / Netherlandish area, typo, and then the Boxenwolf without the umlaut in the Westfalen Lippe area. And then just straight up as the Werewolf in the Köln Rhineland area, where they just decided that the backrider is the werewolf. That's what we are today. However, this isn't a German. This is for all the fans. My Puma here is gonna be like, I knew this already, but this isn't a German word for a wolf that you were. That's what we call a false friend in the language world. Wer means the question word who, but also used to describe a noun for man or person. So it's pretty much just man-wolf. But yeah, in Schaumburg, he's the Boxenwolf, baby. Is that accurate?
I think you spiked the mic like 3 times just now.
I'm checking it. That part? No, it's good. Oh god. No, it's good. I have the good setting on.
Okay.
I've been podcasting for months. I know what I'm doing.
Good for you. Not the best delivery though. Anyways.
It's false. We're getting into linguistics. What do you mean it's not the best delivery? Everybody just went to bed.
For one, good on you for watching Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, where they do...
Oh, I didn't.
They do have that bit about how werewolf means man-wolf.
I know very little about Harry Potter.
Yeah, sure, of course. We'll just accept it as fact, I guess.
I literally hate Harry Potter.
Harry Potter invented werewolves, buddy. Look it up, Harry Potter.
I think Dr. Faust did
he?
Into my script. Go on about your fucking Harry Potter anecdote.
It's not an anecdote, it was a scene. Snape explains how werewolf means. And it's incidentally in the same movie in which a werewolf is actually introduced. So
that's what we like to call it, Chekhov's
werewolf.
Linguistics lesson.
Yeah. Chekhov's classroom.
I'm glad we're on I'm glad I nailed a linguistic little bit though. I have a person who speaks both languages better than I do in the vicinity, and this could go very poorly very quickly. Mein Deutsch ist nicht perfekt. Pump it.
That was good though. I'm
Pump
not
it.
pumping it.
Okay, he fist pumped me. Now, in comparison to the other 4 folklore motifs, I'll get to those. The books and wolf legends are by and large the most recently mentioned and cited they also marked the end of the, oh my god, werewolf sightings are happening all the time thing, like, in the 19th century forward. Or backward, I mean. Though, through the sightings, use air quotes, or stories, if you're a skeptic, unlike me, went from the 19th to the earliest 20th century, pretty much right up to World War One is when, like, people would be like, Bucks and Wolf? Which is, like, really late. But this is the latest of the tropes. Like, all of the other ones are happening way earlier. What would a story of this sort look like, you ask? Well, I have an example. This is a direct quote from the I Would Have Eaten You Too article. Ready for this? Dramatic reading. Cue the scary music. A farmer from Mid-Limburg expressed this notion more like a piece of oral history than as a migratory legend. During the autumn evenings, grown-up girls used to gather and preserve beans and, in winter, to spin together. Afterwards, the girls drank coffee and went home. Boys who had an eye on them turned up to act as their protectors. Once 5 girls were on the way back home. They had been troubled by a werewolf before, and then they had run off in a flash. Now they were accompanied by boys, who would teach the werewolf not to attach the girls anymore. Attack. Suddenly, he was there again and tried to jump on someone's back. One of the boys hit him hard on the head with a piece of wood. The werewolf dropped down and the whole group ran away anxiously. Next morning, the body of a man was found behind the verge of the road, who had paid for his adventure with his life. It was a married man. According to my mother, this actually happened in 1885. According to Engels, number 32.6, in the book I mentioned earlier.
That sounds kind of interesting. Like, I don't know.
Burp. Continue.
I feel like the beginning of that story sounds a lot like, those boys just got the gay guy of their little boy group to pretend to be a werewolf so they could hang out with the girls. It's like, hey dude, can you like jump on someone's back for a second,
Your
frighten them a little bit.
Clairvoyancy is frightening me.
Is that so?
I'll get to it. Oh, don't you worry. Because I actually swear to God that's clairvoyant as fuck.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm intrigued.
Now, this is a segue into something very funny. Oh my God, I'm talking about it right now. Literally. So they're called backriders or trouser wolves and pretty much ride the backs of traveling men. Are the Books and Wolf gay? Gay allegory? I Would Have Eaten You Too gets the idea with a line of text that was in the book, and I promise I didn't write it. I really promise it. On the other side of the border, one backrider was said to have licked the neck of a man, while another urinated on his victim. More to the north, in the middle of the Netherlands, the werewolf was also said to have urinated, more specifically, that he peed in the opening of your underwear.
Huh. That's specific. Where was
he peed your pants?
Survey 1937?
This happened in a collection, Ingalls, number 27 point... I don't remember. I could pull up the page. I don't think it names a town, though.
No, I'm not talking about the town. I was talking about, like, it's an interesting thing to record and to, keep going in the oral history of your tiny village.
Yeah, people really just throw like, oh yeah, the werewolf will pee your pants.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, when my grandma always told me stories about how there's like a group of people that's gonna kidnap me and was very unspecific about who they were or why. Just like a classic don't go out or someone's gonna kidnap you story. It didn't get as specific as, hey, little Zuma Puma, don't go out there, world's gonna piss in your pants. Although I guess it's like the Sandman who like rubs sand in your eyes if you don't go to sleep on time, but that's at least like really bad. Like pissing in your pants is just a little. It's pretty basic for a werewolf to do to you. Like he could also just rip your guts out.
That's interesting. I like that angle to the folklore you presented.
Sure.
We didn't cut anything out. But yeah, jokes aside, the werewolf, especially in this area of Europe, definitely plays into like an allegorical sort of figure, much like how witches in the witch hunt times were like kinds of allegories for empowered women who lived by themselves and had a property. In the Mimi example I just mentioned, where the werewolves like pee in your pants, a lot of folklorists are like, a gay person is in the woods or the gay person is talking to you, and bada boom, spinning the tail. Is it a werewolf? Is it a back rider because it's riding on your back and stuff? And so, like, that's not, I'm just kind of going off script because I didn't like the way I worded this. But, like, the allegory kind of plays out in these stories containing people who are, like oftentimes when, like, oh my god, we just defeated the werewolf, yeehaw, oh, the person's on the floor. It's oftentimes, like, a really hungry / poor person, especially if they're malnourished to the point of exaggerating their body features. And then also people who are robbers and or also serial killers and other horrible crime people. I'll get to that in a second. While there are actual reports by people who say a werewolf for real, a lot of times these stories show up in like a Brothers Grimm type stuff, and actually specifically in the Brothers Grimm's work for real, as a literary device to describe non-fantastical things that happened to people back in the day that they had to deal with. And gay people are very non-churchy, so everybody got stressed.
Yeah, we are basically werewolves.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the main takeaway here.
When I see full moons, I'm just gonna go right in there and eat it up.
I'm gonna pee in someone's pants. I'm not cutting that because it's relevant.
It's not even relevant though.
That's what gay werewolves do.
Mm-hmm.
They pee your pants.
Interesting.
Thoughts?
What am I supposed to thought about?
Do you have anything you wanted to add in before I go into the next section?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. I'm curious about those other 3 archetypical tropes.
Sure.
Boom. As described the heroic, I talked to there usually other times. You were beep bop boop. I talked about other tropes. Here they are. There's usually a wounded werewolf trope. People see a werewolf. Ah! Let's stab it. Boom. Uh-oh. Farmer Johnson was weird and has a scar now in the daylight. What? The Werewolf of Klein Krams is a story that sort of follows this trope and involves a grandmother with a whole-ass tail sticking out under the covers when they investigate the wolf that they injured, and then went to her house and was like, what's with the tail under the covers of Grandma? That's how that trope plays out. Like, they do something to the wolf in the real world, and then a person has it in the real world.
Yeah.
That story happens a lot. Semicolon, we have the werewolf lover, or werewolf husband trope, where it's not horny, where a werewolf slips out of bed while their lover is asleep, becomes a werewolf, comes back, bites them, tatters clothing, and then the lover is found the next day with a cloth in their teeth. Like, oh my god, you bit me, husband? What's with the blankets in your teeth? That's a big one. And then there's a weird one, oftentimes, this is a weird one because oftentimes it involves other means of the human lover being like, wait a minute, this werewolf reminds me of my husband for some reason. It's got the limp he has, etc. That's a huge archetype. And then the last one is the oven werewolf, wherein a werewolf does their thing, leaves their strap or wolfskin behind as the human comes to town, and then the villagers see the thingy and then they burn it. End of the werewolf story. Oh my god, you burned my werewolf strap. Now I can't change. Because you followed me in the night. Those are the archetypical stories. And all of those happened and then, like, I don't remember the order exactly, but those are kind of like how OG folkloric legends play out. And then the little later ones are like Buxenwolf time, Backrider time, yeehaw. There are a couple other stories that popped up in a bunch of my research as not described by the folklorist Roix. Namely the werewolf rock, wherein a werewolf tries to steal a sheep, and then the shepherd literally hunts them down and tries to beat the werewolf to death, and then the werewolf is like, please stop, I'm actually a person. And then the shepherd is like, bet, and then kills them anyway, and then because they're a heathen, they do it, but then they're like, this is your grave now, we're naming the rock after you. That's a story that happens a lot. And then there's another one where people, like there's another story where people who have the wolf strap get really hungry and then they eat a whole bunch of farm animals and then sometimes just straight up horses, and then they turn back into a human and get the worst stomachache of all time, to which people were like, you didn't, you wouldn't, did you eat the farm animals? And then the werewolf, having been found out, goes, oh no, bye. And then there's also like a similar trope to that where the poor beggars all of a sudden have a lot of meat now. And that's the werewolf trope section of this podcast. Puma went to the fridge. This is the most boring part of the podcast, I promise.
It absolutely is, actually.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do that all in one breath.
Yeah, I've been listening to this for 5 minutes. It's not
like 3.
enjoyable.
What you didn't like it? You're like, this is boring.
Yeah, it's like a lecture.
The werewolf tropes.
So what were the werewolf tropes like in brief? Because I didn't take notes, actually.
You're all good. Going from memory, so this is going to be really funny. We have werewolf lover. My husband bit me, my shirt and teeth. That's why I know. We have wounded werewolf. I stabbed the old man farmer.
Oh, yeah.
He got a scar now. Oven werewolf. Fuck that werewolf. Strap in the oven. Werewolf rock. I'm killing you. I don't give a fuck. Grave is the rock. Last but not least, werewolf eat a bunch of fire animals, become human, get stomachache.
Huh.
Yeah, that's usually how werewolf legends play out in these.
Great.
It should be noticed that some of the older folklorists from the 60s usually were like, only men can be werewolves, but there are a bunch of stories involving women getting the werewolf belt and
like
doing their
Ask the
thing.
Werewolves.
Yeah.
It has a female werewolf.
Boom.
From the oral history of furry artists from 2010-ish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's really that old? Early? I felt like that was an early 2000s thing. I don't know why.
I have no idea. But I think the comics are from like 2010s at least.
Okay. That's cool. Anyway, I chalk this up to Christian pagan fearing revisionism.
Mm.
So, Zuma.
Yeah.
What's the point of all this? It's not a cryptid anymore. It's a legend. I'm sad now. That's why it's folked up. But that's not the case, because there are definitely full-ass reported stories involving werewolves, which I'll get to. But understanding the historical understanding of a werewolf is important in helping us figure out what parts of a werewolf story are quote-unquote true, and which parts are apocryphal or allegorical. And without this section, I would have never been able to bring up the story about a werewolf that peed in some dude's pants. So that being said, what exactly was medieval/Renaissance/19th, 20th century understanding of a werewolf? It's now time for the rules of a German werewolf.
Oh, yay, another lecture.
You want to skip this? Is it long? Because I actually kind of don't want to do it. Yeah, okay, it's short. Here's how werewolves work, according to my legend. Rules for German werewolf. They're obviously not the same anywhere. This is a lecture, so it's going to be quick because I'm being judged. I already talked about that part. One, as I mentioned before, werewolf isn't going to change based on the cycles of the moon, you dumbass. That's a French thing. French people are like, the moon, sacre bleu. In the case in Germany, werewolf gets a magic item, usually a belt, sometimes a magical wolf skin, like the Norse do, and then it lets them change at will. However, 1.5, a lot of stories involve people who own these belts and stuff, usually getting a weird urge to put the belt on for no reason. So it's not like the werewolf is in control of themselves the whole time. And it's especially not like the werewolf in a wolf form is a fully cognizant human. This is where we get people attacking their friends, lovers, peoples. Although most maulings affect farm animals because people are hungry, and then a lot of people get robbed because it's fun to do that. And then sometimes you have to carry a wolf on your back long distances because they don't want to walk.
Yeah, it is. I hate walking.
Yeah, I agree. I think I walked around like a dog earlier, and now my feet hurt. And we're going to have to do it again after we record this. 2! I also mentioned this before, it's fast time, baby. You usually have to get a wolf strap by making a deal with the demon or the devil. 2.1, actually. Why would you want to be a werewolf? Well, you become stronger, and then you have a cool wolf biology in general, so you hunt better, scratch better, smell better, that sort of thing. People also like becoming werewolves because it's sort of an alter ego. A werewolf can ride someone's back, for example, and you never knew who they were the next day when you see them in the street, when people weren't wearing the belt. Fun fact, actually, in all the stories I read wherein a buxton wolf rode a dude's back, they were usually never like, oh, heck, I should do something about this. They were usually like, oh no, the buxton wolf has chosen me to ride. This is my fate, and I can't nor won't do anything about it. Which feels gay?
Well, it is a giant wolf. Like, it might kill you if you don't have him ride you, and apparently that was just common knowledge.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's just an interesting thing I noticed. Everyone is just kind of like, oh, if the buxton wolf finds you. It's
kind of I guess in the time was like an emergency drill procedure. It's like, okay, you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll, call 911, but for medieval things, just scream for help. And also when there's a werewolf that jumps on your back, you kind of carry it or it's going to disembowel you.
Yeah, that makes sense and it's fun. Still kind of gay though.
It is a little gay.
With 3, how do you stop a werewolf? Well, you can actually beat it or shoot it to death easily, and just have it. It's like just, oh my god, it's a little bit stronger than a person, so that's why it's taking a while. They bleed and scar and get hurt like any other animal, but they also have a few specific weaknesses. 4. Some say throwing steel or iron over the werewolf, just like over their head, can stun them, and then sometimes revert them back to human form.
Sounds like something the werewolves want you to think. They don't throw it at us, just kind of over us. That's a good idea.
Oh, I like that. Like a World of Darkness situation where it's like, oh, shoot over me, because then I'll get scared and run away.
Like, who's gonna tell people that's not the case, because they're just gonna be dead if it doesn't work.
5, though. Some say that if you know the werewolf's name and then say it out loud, it'll cause them to also get stunned or also revert them back to human. Or also make them run away.
They'll get all blushy because you remember them.
Aw.
You know my name?
Oh, you remembered me, even when I'm a big wolf. Okay, I'm a human again. It would actually ruin my night.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like the Beauty and the Beast problem. Like, you earn the love, but then they just turn into some ugly, stupid human.
Yeah, I hate that. The movie is so sad, but Bella's a real G for finding true love, even though he turns ugly in the end.
Yeah.
Not that I'm judging you, but are you just looking up Steam sales right now?
Yes, I am.
Cool. This is the boring section's almost over, I promise.
Good.
Woo! So that was fun, but what if I threw you a wicked fucking curveball and told you that we have a 1988 werewolf sighting in Wittlich, Germany?
I would say they're probably making it up.
Oh, you'll see after I tell you.
Oh.
Allow me to introduce you to the Moorbach monster.
Sounds Eastern German.
It's actually very Western, very close to France. So you're ruined.
Isn't it Saarland because those guys are like pretty high on like cocaine and nuts, not nuts. I don't know what they're called in English. They're prostitutes. There we go.
What?
Yeah, in German it's just like nothing.
What's that?
Nothing.
Like a prostitute is nuttin'?
Yeah, no, it's, a prostitute is nutter, but prostitutes plural is nutten.
That was the plot twist I wasn't expecting. I thought you were gonna be like nuts. Oh, like a fun little.
Yes, it's a false friend.
Cute little. I love that. I just learned the German word for prostitute.
It's less prostitute and more hooker, so be careful about calling one that.
Oh well, yeah. What would you call a professional prostitute then?
Prostitute, yeah.
That's
also
easy.
These days, sex worker, like the English word, is actually also pretty common because American social progress just kind of tends to carry over.
That's cool. That makes it easier for me to remember. Yeah. But here's an anonymous passage emailed to folklorist D.L. Ashleman in 1997, probably translated, which is why the grammar is weird. But here it is. Have you ever heard of the Moorbach monster? I first learned of the legend while I was stationed at Hahn Air Force Base, Germany. Moorbach was a munitions site just outside the village of Wittlich. Supposedly, Wittlich is the last town where a werewolf was killed. There's a shrine just outside of town where a candle always burns. Legend has it that if the candle ever goes out, the werewolf will return. One night, a group of security policemen were on their way to their post at Moorbach when they noticed that the candle was out at the shrine, and all joked about the monster. Later that night, alarms were received from the fence line sensor. When the security policemen investigated the call, one of them saw a huge dog-like animal stand up on its back legs, look at him, and then jump over a 7.5-foot chain-link fence. Wyatt's in feet, confused, rolling with it. A military worker dog...
It was an American soldier that was stationed there.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. A military worker dog was brought to the area where the creature was last seen, and the dog went nuts, not wanting anything to do with tracking the creature. This occurred around 1988. There have always been, air quotes, ghost stories dreamed up by bored security policemen, but this one I have heard over and over again. Thought you might find it interesting.
It's a good story. I mean, I like the bit about it where I just started joking about it because I do imagine policemen would do that. It's like, the local police is kind of going past it, they're, missing whatever. They just see that the candles out. It's funny, it's just a cute little folklore story, but then all of a sudden the wolves start attacking.
We do have to go there and blow the candle out.
Well, I wouldn't blow the candle out. I don't believe in crypto or whatever, but, I don't tempt fate because it's stupid. It's just gonna punish you in a different way.
I just think that I want a werewolf, but that's an interesting thing. It leads credence to the story where it's like, of course they'll think it's silly and then get surprised instead of... I guess, like, to that degree, though, and I'm my own devil's advocate, but, like, if you're teasing about it, it's at the front of your mind, and so, like, when you see something bound about in the woods, you're gonna immediately be like, oh, we were just talking about this werewolf.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm seeing.
Obviously.
So...
Yeah, I mean, it is, like, weird things happen every night, but when it's the night when, you know, that specific event also happened, you're gonna just connect it because it's kind of an outlying thing happening.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, my words are a little messed up, but I think it gets the gist.
It's a drunk podcast. That's the vibe. Another personnel around the Air Force Base reported a black-furred dogman to be around 2 meters, 7 feet for my Americans, able to run from 2 legs to 4, switching with ease, and able to clear a 3.5 meter, 12-foot fence for my Americans after taking 3 long leaps, like Mario from the Mario Bros.
Oh, did you do like the what?
Boop,
Yeah.
bop, wow! Yeah. Apparently that's what the person described it as. He's like, yeah, he just did that.
When was that again?
I think this was
I guess
an
it was
anonymous
after the
person.
first.
Yeah.
After the first Mario Brothers.
It is cool to mention, though, that if longtime fans of Foxxo Esoterica will be like, switch from 2 legs to 4 legs, my shoddy, the Beast of Bray Road does that all the time. Whoa! It's just interesting, because it's like, that's this is usually like you wouldn't imagine a werewolf would just be like, oh, I'm on all 4s now. Now I'm on all 2s. That's
I guess
not
a
like
lot
automatic.
of Germans live in the Midwest, so, you know.
Do they? Because I feel like...
Well, they
one.
stopped... Well, yeah, they stopped saying they're German after World War One, you know, for reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little sus. But did they do it in the 80s?
No. I think World War II was pretty, you know, fresh in
And
memory and all
put
that.
the nail in the coffin for a whole 100 years.
It's like... It's kind of hard to be German in America. I feel like we're the real victims of World War II.
I'm gonna not okay. We all understand this is humor. That being said, I can't name a single person who's like, "Yo, you're dating a German." Ooh, cringe! Like everyone's like, "I wish that we were as cool as Germany." We're in America, the fascist nightmare state.
Aw,
So
yeah.
you guys, everyone in America thinks that Germany's being cool now. Finally, high five.
No. Sadly not worrying later.
Why did you
now.
say no and then high five me?
Oh, pretty sure your listeners know what's up.
Do they? Are
Yes.
they even still listening to this episode?
Yes, all 5 of them.
11 ish. You're 1, I'm 10.
Well, you say that, but...
Still makes it 10.
Yeah.
What's the werewolf though? What's the Morbach Monsters OG origin story? Ready for it?
Sure.
There's a legend surrounding this werewolf specifically, wherein a soldier from 1812, not that war, Tamen Johannes Baptist Schweitzer, served under Napoleon for a sec.
Ooh,
He was-
Liberation Wars.
Yeah. He was a part of the army that tried to take Moscow in winter when Napoleon was trying to do that, so it didn't work. And then he came back home starving and not victorious, attempting to get home. Evidently, when he grouped up with a bunch of Russian deserters, they decided to raid small farmhouses and such, namely one in Wittlich, where a farmer's wife, Elizabeth Beerley, decided to place a curse after watching her farms burn down from them. The curse went as follows. From now on each full moon, you will change into a rabid wolf. And then Schweitzer killed her. And then he may or may not have been committing other horrible crimes that are like, you know.
How do we get the point of transforming someone into a rabid animal when they're already kind of being dicks?
Yeah,
Like,
nothing's going to change.
Why not change them into like a deer or something so they have to fear for their lives?
Or like a rabbit, where they also are small and capable.
Yeah, like get murdered the whole time. Like that seems a more poetic justice than making them even more dangerous.
Russia's justice at this point, we're leaning too heavily into the poetry of it, and that's what the downfall is. Anyway, they may not have gotten back to France because he was killed by the town people, which is what the candle sculpture that I talked about earlier was based on. He kind of really didn't get to do his werewolf thing. They killed him immediately.
Yeah, girl, townspeople can always rely on them to save the day.
They
Have you ever watched a movie where there were people who were tortured in pitchfork where they weren't the heroes?
Beauty and the Beast.
I'm pretty sure they were the heroes. They created the moment in which Gaston... No, wait, the other one. The beast turns back into a human.
Yeah, that's like the bad part.
Well, it's a bad part for horny people, but it's a good part for the story.
Oh my god, a good bad part for horny people. It's like, I think Shrek really just nailed home the fact that you don't have to be a human to be pretty. You know? What are we talking about now? Because I kind of went off.
Werewolves?
And Shrek.
Yeah. No, that's what you were talking about before you were asking what we were talking about.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up Beauty and the Beast one more time. Because a beast needs to be a beast again. This is a horny episode for me.
Talking about that though, you're very drunk, aren't you, Aaron? Is this episode a little harder for you because you're in Germany and turf?
Yeah, you guys put more alcohol into your alcohol.
Yeah.
And also we did a shot, but it's like a cup that I could like actually drink like 3 shots out of, and I think I am like 4 in.
You are.
So that
How much is there by volume in the herbal actually?
Like a liter?
30%.
Oh. Yeah, I'm usually the mom friend in the podcast. This is... Now you have to take care of me. Yay.
I'll take care of you.
Aww.
I'll lock you in a crate or something.
That counts.
Yeah, I guess.
Can't hurt anybody or myself.
There's a lot of spiders down in the basement when I lock you there. Oh, it's going to be annoying.
I'm being bullied. Also, he really... Okay, not to get completely off the topic, but Zuma can, like, drink 8 full beers and 7 shots and 2 mixed drinks and then finally be like, I think I'm drunk.
Yeah, it's true. I guess drunk constitutes what that was, blasting Eastern German communist songs in the streets of Kalamazoo. I fondly remember that day. And you know the key is that I do remember it. Do you even remember it?
Yeah.
After your shared drink with like one person over the course of the whole evening? You probably would...
I had like a bunch of drinks, like a bunch of tasty ones.
Yeah,
not
sure.
Alcohol, like juice,
like
pop.
the champagne of beer.
The champagne of... So there's a place in Kalamazoo, the Beer Exchange. Oh my god, I actually don't think it's open anymore. But if it is, I hope it is, because it was really good. And they do like a weird stock market thing where like the more popular a beer is, the more expensive it gets. Kind of like the stock market, etc. It's an interesting price system, and it's very fun. It makes the unique beers less eager to try. Thank God! Last time I did a beer crawl in Kalamazoo, we didn't go there, and it made me stressed because I was like, is it closed? And nobody would answer me.
It might have been closed because there was still a pandemic going on back then.
Yeah. Oh, there's still one going on now, everybody. Don't forget. I only went because I'm vaccinated, and only went around vaccinated people, and only hang around vaccinated people besides the Puma here who lives in Germany and has had a hard time doing that.
Also have a vaccination.
You're like one in.
Yeah, 1 in.
1 out of 2.
I already can't really die anymore, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. But that being said, we're sitting there at the bar being like, the champagne of beers?
Ooh, that's
$2?
Yeah, it's going to be like a mix of sparkling wine and beer, perhaps?
It'll be really tasty. And then we watched the bartender pour Miller High Life into our mugs, and there's like 15 seconds before the prices change, and we're like, we have to down this now and get a new one.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
I mean, I couldn't have known because I don't know, slogans of American beers.
I don't know slogans of specifically Miller. I treat myself to Astra Utip.
Deutsch Treut.
What the fuck is Deutsch Treut?
Good question.
I feel like I should know what that is. I am going to live here.
Ooh, delicious German goodies. You probably can't eat many of them.
What is it, delicious German goodie to my
Deutsch?
hometown cities?
Authentic
Is that Pfannkuchen?
German food for okay, the Pfannkuchen is more of an Alsace thing. It's like Frenchy French.
Alsace is actually very interesting. I did a podcast episode in that region with the Dancing Plague, baby, 1518. Talk about that in a sec.
Yeah,
we're off the topip a little bit, but with editing, we can.
It's pretty hard for a place not to be weird when it's been changing hands that much.
Yeah.
So it's kind of how they didn't put Witcher 3 into an endless war zone for no reason. It's like pretty easy to have stories about horrible monsters when all the humans are horrible monsters.
Which is actually the basis behind a lot of these werewolf stories, especially this one, but like also others. Like, a werewolf is a really easy tie-in allegorically for anybody committing a horrible crime.
Yeah.
This is one of those stories that I fear, the Morbach monster, because it has here's one story, and that's the only story you will ever find if you look it up online. I call it the Stoll Cemetery effect. Look it up, audience, but I'll also explain it, because I don't think Zuma knows what that is.
Sure.
Stoll Cemetery is a cemetery in Kansas that's like so not haunted. It's like the size of the room we're in right now, very small.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look it up online, and it's like 80 articles with the same story where it's like, gate to hell, staircase to basement, scary ghost, witches burn the church down. And like none of it's real. To like any quantifiable degree, because there's like a degree of people murdered people, child sacrifice, and that sort of stuff shows up in newspapers, and you're like, no newspapers report on that, my friends. This is a fake story. And so it culminates into this sort of like urban legend as opposed to like an actual ghost story, but it takes place in a real place, so you're thinking about it often as something that's real because you can Google Maps it.
Yeah.
I call it the Stoll Cemetery effect, where the internet kind of blows a ghost story way out of proportion and makes something fake. And the Moorbach Monster kind of has that thing going on. But that being said, this one has like 3 stories attached to it and historical significance. So it verges on the territory, but I, a non-skeptic, will safely admit that even though I've seen one of the stories way more than the other 2, I think this really happened. The Air Force people saw a werewolf.
Yeah. I mean, sure, they probably didn't though.
I think they did because it's fun.
Well, they probably saw like well, I don't know, like, because in Germany, military people are like the only people that ever see wolves, at least back at the time, because they had like the big, what are they called, like training areas for the military.
Oh, like a, I really don't know. Like a camp is the first.
It's like a military zone where like, people can't go into because they use that for training and stuff. And these things are like really big. Those are like the biggest parts of like untouched nature in Germany. There's no people that go through it, no hunters that go in there because the military is kind of shooting live ammunition and everything. So in places like Münster and stuff, they just have wolves there, and that's where they're actually coming from. The resurgence of wolves in Germany, because that's where it's sort of starting. Because they were like camping late at night, and the wolves are coming, and they give 10 food from the NREs because soldiers are fucking idiots.
That makes sense.
Not idiots in a way that they're bad people, just idiots in a way that, they're a little brain dead after 5 days in the mud, eating nothing but refrigerated food from 1992.
Yeah.
So, they feed the dogs, which they probably
spacey.
shouldn't do, so they get nicer with humans, so wolves are just kind of hanging out with humans now.
That makes sense.
It's a little bit of a tangent. What I'm trying to get to is that military places are often a little deserted.
That's
so
not a tangent. That's directly information I didn't know, and very much so helps shape my understanding of the story. So that makes me lean more skeptically now, because that's like, oh my gosh, this like people are obviously going into. It's a combination of people being like, the candle went out. I'm thinking about werewolves. Wolves are here. They'll come up to people. Untouched nature. Bada boom, bada bang.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. And if it happened once, it's probably just only one time that people were like thinking about the werewolf. I like that. That's important. That's important information. To a degree, it is interesting to note another story in which the genesis of a werewolf story stems from a person committing horrible atrocities, and it feeds into the metaphorical werewolf narrative, but this time with a violent narrative as opposed to the non-conforming sexuality narrative I was talking about, where werewolf gay people, or also the poor poverty narrative where werewolf hungry people eating a sheep. Here's the actual serial killer story. You ready for it? This is the last one, I think. Or second to last one, but the last one's cute. I want a palate cleanser before I end the episode. But here we're going to talk about Peter Stubb, the werewolf of Bedburg. Here's a big boy. And also the pinnacle of the episode. A lot of articles I read source their stuff from the writer George Boris and woodcutter Lucas Mayer. I am not good at German, so I did not go to the source, because then I'd have to read a lot of old German, which is different from modern German, which I'm already not good at.
Ooh, is that down there?
Yeah. I'm going to say it out loud, but once I start doing poorly, you can take over.
Yeah, I'm just going to take over right now.
Cool.
Wahrhaftig und wunderbarlich. Eine Bezeichnung von einem Pauren, der sich durch Zauberei des Tags 7 Stunden zu einem Wolf verwandelt hat, und wie es danach Gericht ist worden durch den polnischen Nachrichter den letzten Oktober, last October, 1589 the year of 1589. Yeah, I need to look this bit, but this one's here, sorcery, Zauberei.
Ooh, that's a fun word.
Obviously, it's Tag 7 Stunden, so 7th hour of the day, so probably
Yeah.
either like in the morning or in the evening.
Kölnischen sounds like Kölner, like the city of Köln.
Yeah, like Cologne. Kölnische Nachrichten is probably just the Cologne news.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Wahrhaftig und wunderbar in der Zeit von einem Pauren. I don't know what a Pauren is. Probably some kind of a word for some kind of profession. Or Pauren could also be like a poor person, but it's
not
a guess.
Actually correct, since this is a wealthy person.
Correct.
But yeah, thank you for the old German reading. High five.
High five.
Oh, he didn't this time, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Anyway, October 28th, 1589, the village of Bedburg, 4 miles away from Cologne. Shots to my Westfalen squad. They live in that area. We also will soon. High five.
Nope.
We got an apartment in Essen. We're gonna live there soon. We're kind of be near this area, so shots to Peter Stubb. A farmer named Peter Stubb, or Peter Stump, or a combination of either, was put to death. Content warning, this story is by far the goriest story that I've ever told on the podcast. I can give you a timestamp to let you know when it's not gory anymore. Future Forsetti, go! Hey there, past Forsetti. Future Forsetti here. Go to 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 33 seconds. Bye-bye! I'll give present Forsetti some time. The time I did. So Peter Stubb's execution was bonkers. He was fastened to a breaking wheel and had both of his feet and one of his hands broken with an axe, and had his flesh pulled off of him in 10 different spots with burning pincers, and finally, after they tortured him long enough, he was beheaded. On October 31st, his body, along with his daughters and his mistresses, who were alive, was burned at the stake. After the whole ordeal, Peter's body, attached to a wheel still, along with the likeness of a wolf, they may have actually killed a wolf for this.
I think they've had to.
Yeah.
Get the likeness of a wolf for that.
Yep. And also his head was on a spike and placed it at the front of the town on display as a sick and grisly warning. What could one person possibly do to warrant an execution like this? Well, he was a vampire. He was a vampire the whole time. I'm kidding!
Good joke.
Peter was in possession of a wolf strap after making a diabolical deal with the devil. His crimes, however, weren't as milquetoast as the books involves. Peter Stubb was a fucking horrifying man. Allow me to introduce you to the Werewolf of Bedburg. Hey there, just letting you know, it's safe to listen here if you're afraid of gore. For future Forsetti, come back here. He was horrifyingly executed because he was a werewolf. I'm gonna cough, but if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, it's just medieval executions. They're horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like, terrifyingly horrible. It's horrifying what they did back then.
Yeah.
Kind of a mix of not really having discovered the concept of empathy yet, while also being pretty sure that there's the devil in people.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that stuff, you're also gonna go to hell.
Oh my god, okay, so I didn't put this in the script because I did the script like ages ago. However, on the podcast Cryptoboozology, everybody who hasn't listened to the episode where I had them on as a guest, check them out now because they literally do what I do, and also one of them is a furry, and it's very funny that we both found each other because it's just a funny small world. But I was talking about a witch hunt exactly, like, with this sort of energy going on in, like, Scotland at the time. I think actually a little bit later than this. But there's the whole culture of witch hunting and werewolf hunting is like unfathomably othering somebody, just like completely disassociating humanity from somebody in a way that I could never like understand in any way. There's a degree of disassociation that goes on back in this day that's just so unfathomable to any degree.
It's like, you know, the way that some people still treat animals these days, just as if they don't even have a soul or feel what's going on. It's just, yeah, it's like you said, it's association. That's how some people treated humans back then.
Yeah.
So,
check out Agnes Sampson. Actually, let me look up her name, because it's probably Agnes Sampson. Yeah. Nope. You can't say your thing. I'm just using... Yeah, Agnes Sampson was the witch I was talking about. She was also horribly tortured for being a witch.
Where was that? America?
Scotland.
Scotland.
Yep. Actually, a little bit precursor to Salem, I think.
Wild.
Or right around that time. But she was Scottish, and there was a Scottish witch hunt there.
Salem for the true fans.
I don't know. I'm a fake fan. Got excited about nothing. Anyway, you ready to hear about what Peter Stump did?
Yeah, sure.
Cause
was he gay? Is that what he did?
Oh my God, no.
Was he a gay man in real life?
Probably that he could have been, but that's not what the newspaper says.
Oh no.
History time. So what was happening this year in Cologne in 1586? What was the year? Did I get it right? I hope I did. 1589. Close. Well, Germany isn't Germany yet, and it won't be Germany for a while.
Another 200 years.
Yep. Holy Roman Empire time. This is particularly important to note inasmuch as we had a classic Protestants versus Catholics war going on for this entire time period, of course. And it's also called it also took place in Cologne itself. It's literally known as the Cologne War, aka Seneschal's War, which started in 1583 and had just actually wrapped up a year prior. The Catholics won. So boom, we have a ravaged countryside that's about to get ravaged even further because we haven't even gotten to the 100 Years' War.
Bubonic plague and religious war. It's the best crossover of the century.
Oh, you're reading too far ahead, my love. Also, we have a ravaged countryside. We were on the second major European wave of the bubonic plague at the time, and people were hungry to hunt some witches. Also, as a little bonus thing, because witches and also werewolves were, very non-Christian. We hate those guys. Peter Stubb was a landowning man with a good amount of wealth living in bedwork. He was also a widower with 2 children in their teenage years, and he was a Protestant.
Ooh, that's not... Ooh.
Kind of cringe.
Long-time fans know where this is going.
Correct. Longtime fans heard me talk about his execution earlier. They know where it went.
That's true, but, it's like Protestant and Cologne. It's always never a good sign at that time in history.
Then, like so many things in 16th century Europe, things went poorly. The village had started experiencing cattle mutilations, whereupon cows were killed and horrifyingly ripped apart. Don't worry, I'll hit you with a content warning if I start getting into detail. Anyway, this isn't a small thing. Starving people really like milk and also meat, so the town decided that this was the work of wolves, and routinely went on straight-up wolf hunts to stop the mutilations. However, this sort of thing then begun to happen to children. Sometimes they would be taken off the path, and other times they were taken from home at night, never to be seen alive again. It is at this point that the witch-hunty people started thinking about werewolves again. Here's the thing, though. Werewolfness aside, Peter Stubb did some fantastically messed up stuff, allegedly, which I will now get into. Content warning for the love of God, Future Forsetti. Hey there, Future Forsetti here. Just here to let you know that the best time to avoid hearing about gore and stuff is skipping ahead to 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 14 seconds. Have a great rest of the podcast, everyone. Go for it, President Forsetti. Do you feel comfy with this? You ready for some horrifying stuff?
I went to school in Germany. This cannot possibly be worse than my 9th grade history classes.
Yeah, let's get into it then. So Peter Stubb probably killed somewhere around 13 children and a number of adults that I couldn't actually find. He definitely did kill 2 women, though, who were pregnant.
Does that count towards the 13 children?
No. Yeah, those don't count.
Like more like 15, I guess.
Yeah, at this point.
You're a Republican. Sick burn.
So, more often than not, he ripped open bodies with his bare hands and ate parts of them raw, be it human bodies or the livestock himself.
Bare hands? Like, you wrote down bare hands. Was he
I fucked up. It's a typo. He's a werewolf. He definitely ate the fetuses of the 2 pregnant women. He also killed 3 people at once by tricking 2 men into helping him with some lumber work, calling them out one at a time, and then killing them, and then killing and eating the woman that they left alone.
Damn, that was a pretty well orchestrated triple kill, I got to say.
Yeah, it went well for him.
Shit.
He also definitely committed sexual assault.
Oh no, not
oftentimes.
sexual assault.
He killed them. He also killed his own son by luring him out to the woods and straight up bashing his head in, whereupon he ate his brains. Remember when I said that he had a mistress? Turns out that was his sister, who during the trial claimed he was using sorcery to trick Peter into doing all these horrible things. on top of also getting pregnant from him, on top of the werewolf stuff. There's a confession that he also gave that I'll get to after the section, that he talks about this more, because people get tortured and then confess things. But there are also some accounts where he was in a relationship with his daughter instead of his sister, and that's why we also have his daughter being burned at the stake.
That's some real good, Law and Order 1586.
Yeah, we get to execute him first, but we're burning her alive. God. Hey there, Future First Eddie's back. It's safe to listen to it again, without gore. Yeehaw! It's over now. TLDR of Future First Eddie. We did it. We're back. The section is over. TLDR. Imagine some horrible crimes. Any of them. Peter Stubb committed them. So while Stubb definitely did all of those things...
he stole 40 cakes. That's as much as 4 tens, and that's horrible.
He also, didn't tip.
Oof.
That's what the, long-time content warner not skipping fans will know what that got him. While Stubb definitely did all these things at trial, he confessed to one fact. At the age of 12, he had made... when I say he confessed to one fact, he was also definitely being tortured. So people getting tortured will say a lot of things to stop being tortured.
Yeah.
At the age of 12, he made a pact with the devil, who had given him a wolf strap, or a werewolf hide in some stories, that would allow him to change into a werewolf. Some surmise that this would be, in some way, how he came into wealth. However, this confession wouldn't be without some evidence. There is one story where a group of hunters were trying to find the wolf that massacred some livestock. They took their dogs and started tracking. Don't worry, no dogs die. They all ended up finding the wolf and cornered him, leaving him surrounded by dogs, hunters, and the such. This turned out to be Peter Stubb, who, in the last-ditch attempt to live, decided that at this moment he would remove his wolf belt and reveal himself right before the eyes of everybody. And then at least try to convince the villagers that he was just an old dude walking around at night with a weird cloak, and that the belt was a walking cane. That was a specific plot point.
Filling thing of text. Gonna get my notebook out, I guess.
I just told you the most lit shit. How are you complaining?
The most lit shit was just stuff he actually did, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was just... We have a palate cleanser now. You man. You person. Why am I think I've got a tickle, a frog in my throat, and the water isn't making it go away, and I'm just talking too much.
You are talking a lot, aren't you? That's kind of what I've been pointing out about your little script there.
Yeah. It's actually biologically affecting me. I got a frog in my throat. I'm gonna cough. Alcohol dehydrates you, and then talking a lot dehydrates you. All of this has come together to make it really hard for me to breathe. Anyway, he's an old man. Oh my god, it's just a cape. This is my cane. That wasn't a wolf. You all are silly. It's dark. That was the MO. This worked for some reason. I think the story goes that everyone was so disoriented from seeing someone transform in front of their very eyes that they all collectively claimed that it was a trick of the light and that they saw a wolf or chalked it up to some deviltry. Like, oh, somebody's trying to sorcerer Peter Stubb himself. Something like that. So the hunters escorted him home, but everyone else in the village, being the witch hunting crew that they are, decided, hey, hunters, you fucked up. We're arresting him tomorrow morning. And then they did that. And then there was that's when they tortured him and killed him. There is, however, another story that's a bit more odd. There was a farmer who, having his livestock mutilated, decided to do some patrolling himself. Then he found a wolf. Ah! The wolf attempted to lunge at the farmer and try to kill them, but the farmer had a sword.
Wait, how did the farmer get a sword? Those were really expensive.
Oh, he saved his money and he had a sword.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, though. That was funny. That's why I pointed out. He's got a sword. That's so funny. He straight up tried to cut off one of the wolf's paws, causing him to run off. The farmer took the paw home, but when he got there, it turned into a human hand.
Oh, no.
Then it started speaking to him.
Uh-huh.
And the hand was like, hey, I belong to Peter Stubb. Like, he just ratted out. Apparently.
It's a very annoying sentient object to get in your D&D campaign.
Just a snitch hand.
Yeah.
Claiming the whole situation full of sorcery. The farmer told his wife, And on the day of Peter's imprisonment, it is easy to imagine that the two of them told the witch hunty town and instigated the whole thing. They were like, hey guys, guess what? If Peter doesn't have a hand, we know why. That being said, I think I'll get to it in a sec, but I'll do this section, then we'll get to it. All being said, Peter apparently, according to this story, lacked a hand at the trial, which is why he only had one of his hands broken, because the other one was cut off. And not only did he lack a hand at trial, the figure on the breaking wheel on Lucas Meyer's woodcut that was used in the newspaper actually had a hand missing, which led to credence to this being like an actual well-known fact as opposed to something somebody made up apocryphally in post. Like all of the drawings of Peter Stubb written like that during the execution had him missing a hand when he didn't usually miss a hand before. Which is,
wait, what?
Like, Peter Stubb had his hand cut off like the day before his execution, regardless of whether or not he was a werewolf or not. Everyone in town is like, the two-handed Peter Stubb exists, but now it's like, now he only has one hand while we're executing him. Yeah, and it's easy to be like, here's this stuff that we know about him, but the newspaper reports and the woodcutter and the illustrator were like actually drawing him with one hand. So it's like, what?
Certainly magically suspicious that the guy that was tortured to death the day before, like to the brink of death, I guess.
Oh no, they killed him.
Suddenly missing like body parts on the day of his trial.
Which is a good counter critique.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's fun to imagine that. Well, it's not fun to imagine, but it's like, what if he got his werewolf hand cut off?
Always hard to get a lot of enjoyment about the stories where the guy is eating fetuses.
But maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. I don't know. Like back in the day, they also had like stories where they went like, "Oh man, harvest is kind of bad. I'm pretty sure the Jews are at it again." So they like made up a story about a guy poisoning the well and, you know, sacrificing newborns at full moon, and the newspapers printed that.
Yeah. This time it's Protestants. Which is actually the next section I'm about to get into.
Ooh.
I kind of painted the picture as to assume Peter Stubb did all the things and would take all the blame for this. But it should also be noted that this was a huge witch hunting time. Peter, we talked about these. He was a wealthy Protestant among poor Catholics when the Catholics won the Clone War. So, everyone hates him. And it may be entirely the case that he was pinned for somebody else's murders, or even the murder of a wolf in general. And it is probably wasn't that hard, what with them torturing him and everything, to get a false confession. And while I love believing in werewolves and dogmen and cryptids at all points in time, I will admit using the excuse, yeah, you're right, I'm a werewolf, would not hold up in modern court.
You might get an acquittal, like, I don't know. It's better than when
it's
you're
a good
saying
defense nowadays, actually.
When you're saying it in 1583, they're just going to ruin your life.
Yeah, it works better nowadays. That I'll say. However, I'm not going to believe you. It also doesn't help that during the 30 Years' War, a handful of decades later, I think I got the wrong war when I was talking about it earlier. Oops. Records and files were routinely destroyed. Yeah. And this is a lot to the case that we don't have information on right now, and we don't even know Peter Stubb's real name, to be honest. Lastly, Peter Stubb's story is kind of the aforementioned catalyst to the werewolf legend trope that I mentioned earlier, wherein a farmer wounds a werewolf and finds said wound on a human the next day. Cut off the hand. Oh, the human doesn't have a hand. This is the genesis of that trope.
Yeah.
Full circle. Keeping up with the... Did you take notes?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I was actually checking Steam sales again.
Now you should have, so... Everybody comment if you think Zuma the Puma needs to get good at this.
Oh man, I'm really afraid for those 2 comments, out of which one is an ad for Viagra from China.
Kissing the Puma time. Lastly, Peter Stubb... Oh, is it... Yeah. His story was kind of the aforementioned catalyst of the werewolf legend where a farmer cut hand off hand here. Woo! Some people also refer to him as Abel Griswold. I don't know why they do that. People are just like, that could also be his name. An entirely different name.
A long time Harry Potter fans. Like, Griswold.
Like a second time we're bringing up Harry Potter. And I find that interesting because I don't know anything about it besides, Hagrid is a old hairy man.
Well, he's a half giant, so...
I know that they cut off... No, they didn't cut him off. They bolted guns to Harry Potter's hands.
Oh, yeah, they did bolt guns to Harry Potter's hands.
And he couldn't, drop the guns. He couldn't use his hands anymore.
Got a whole weirdness later career of his horror thing.
It was very funny. I also think that he, started worshipping horses, but then ended up blinding them with a hoof pick when somebody was trying to have sex with him, and now he's in therapy. Longtime Broadway fans will recognize this Equus reference.
I just remember that, like, this is funny. Is that the movie where he's like...
It's not a movie.
Yeah, no, I know that, the play where he's like in the, the hay balls, like, shirt off or whatever.
Fully naked.
Oh my god, it's so funny because, like, that's a really insane story, but I remember a newspaper article from back then that was just talking about how, oh look, Harry Potter's getting sexy these days.
Equus is the most horrifying play. It is not sexy.
That's funny, actually. It's just like, the newspaper's going, oh, Harry Potter being sexy, sorcerer taking his clothes off.
Tangent time. My freshman year of college, I'm a theater major. My school did Equus. And in college, no matter what your degree is, you have to do 1 tech credit. So I was like, I don't know anything about Equus. I'll make this my tech credit. And they're like, all right, you're the audience assistant. You're going to be in the audience. If anybody gets their phone out, you ask them to leave the stage. Yeah. Because there's nudity in the play. So my job was to just watch Equus every night. The 3-hour horrifying play where a man blinds horses.
Yeah.
And now I just know so much about Equus. It's so in my head forever and ever. And then after we did that, they're like, all right, in the winter we're going to tour the show to Milwaukee, and you have to do it again. Oh, no. So I just had to watch Equus like 30 times.
Did they get real horses for it?
No, the horses are played by humans.
God damn it.
Well, you blind them, so it's probably preferable.
Or at least have like really good pony suits, or they're just having the stupid horse.
It depends on what you do as an artur. It's open to like interpretation, but what we did was we had like huge, almost steampunky horse heads made of wires and tubing with eyes that lit up, and once they were blinded, they went out like all at once, and it was like really shocking. It was really good. It was a really good production of Equus. I love Equus. Daniel Radcliffe gets naked.
Harry Potter getting sexy, everyone.
Woo!
Spicy TMI.
That's the segue is that sometimes we call Peter Stubb Abel Griswold, and that's how we got to talking about Equus. God, rest in peace, Peter Schaffer. I think he died like 4 years ago, the playwright. What a brilliant playwright. He's one of my faves. Everybody who's a theater nerd, Peter Schaffer, MVP. I don't know why they do it. Oh, that's talking about the naming Abel Griswold. Okay, I know what my script is. So there's a lot to unpack with this story, and despite the believability of werewolves, there's still a lot we don't know about this case in general. But that being said, this is probably the darkest werewolf trial stories out there, besides maybe the French Bête de Gévaudan, which I want to do an episode about down the line. Oh my gosh, imagine a werewolf, but it looks like a cat.
Does anyone want to be a white cat?
But it's still a wolf. It just has cat-like slinky properties and walks on all four all the time.
Canine propaganda to me.
Yeah, well, because canines are cooler than cats.
You're a wolf. What do you
keep? I guess I have skin in both games. Vulpines are half feline, half canine. At me. Anyway, stay tuned for the Bête de Gévaudan episode, because I want to do that so bad. It's such a good story.
Yeah.
Later, though.
Look, I can do magic. Ooh.
This is a podcast. They can't see you.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just freaking out because you're drunk.
Imagine he's doing magic. Ooh. Aren't you amazed? I do think it's cool. I think it's cool. Anyway, Peter Stubb's case is one of the most prolific early cases of werewolf trials in the area and kicked off a werewolf hunting trend that lasted for another 2 centuries. Germans wanted to hunt werewolves way more than they wanted to hunt witches, actually. They kind of just assumed both were the same thing, like all werewolves are doing witchcraftery, but they killed a lot more werewolves. Yeah.
Poor werewolves.
Indeed.
It's kind of weird that that doesn't show up much in the Wall of Darkness. Like, they just say that the werewolves are still kind of vibing in that area.
They did not certainly vibe for long, and I will say.
Yeah.
I guess, well, you've been reading, like, the vampire ones, mostly. I think vampires are chill. Everyone kind of actually fears vampires and doesn't want to touch them. Yeah,
I mean, why would you, right? They're just minding their own business, being dead, kind of alive.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of people were like, if you fuck with a werewolf, you could probably kill it easy if you needed to.
Yeah, with like
you'll try.
Angry villagers, I guess.
Yeah, but a vampire is significantly harder to kill for some reason.
Not in the World of Darkness, actually.
Yeah, but in the German zeitgeist of the 1500s. Wild. Mm-hmm. But that was an interesting... Yeah, people didn't think about werewolf hunts as much. The Germans kind of kicked that off. Trials even reached beyond the Holy Roman Empire into regions where people didn't even practice Christianity. Indigenous Livonians in the Baltic regions committed executions on the basis of general demon worship, wolfiness, as well as in the Baltic areas of Estonia, modern-day Estonia, but I think also classic Estonia. That kind of was just Estonia for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they were part of the Soviet Union for part.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. Because it's like, we are Estonia, Soviet Estonia. They went back and forth.
I think it's a little more complicated than that, but...
Well, history majors at me.
I am at you right now.
Yeah, I know, that's what I said that for. It's a challenge. I don't think Livonia... what was I saying? So, boom. It's just skipping ahead. Here's the case of Thies of Kaltenbrunn, where a werewolf wasn't executed, inasmuch as it was claimed that the werewolf uses the wolf strap to actually fight the demons. So in this area of the world, a lot of people are like, hey, we're actually kind of fighting the devil with this werewolfery, so fuck off. And it worked in this court case. Also, in the opposite direction, werewolf hunting kind of got to the Spanish Inquisition, but they still cared about witches more.
Yeah.
They just had a couple werewolf executions.
Like general heretics, I guess.
Yeah. Nobody who didn't love God and also did some magic are going to probably get Spanish Inquisitioned. I kind of expect them at this point. I don't know why no one expects them. Like, I fully expect them at all points in
I was
time.
waiting for the joke. I thought you were maybe being a little the bigger man in the situation, but I guess
I kind of spun on its head into a really cool revolutionary way. Like, why wouldn't I expect them at this point in time?
Because that's the joke.
I expect the Spanish Inquisition at me. Anyway, do you want to hear a cute story? Because I finished this one.
Sure.
Here's the Fox Hill near Dachau by Karl Bartsch. In the village of Dachau near Wittenberg, there lived an old woman who possessed a fox strap.
Ooh.
With its help, she could transform herself into a fox, and thus her table never lacked for geese, ducks, and all kinds of poultry.
Was it a table? Was it more like, the blood-soaked ground?
A table because it's cute.
Okay.
She's not a vegetarian, but it's okay if you're not, because it's a hard decision to make. Her grandchildren knew about it, and one day when the schoolmaster was talking about magic in the school, the child told about the fox strap, and the next day brought it to school.
Fucking snitches.
Yeah, fucking snitch.
And little thieves at that.
This is an actual valuable thing, and I'm telling Mom that you told on Mom. Reverse snitching. The schoolmaster took it into his hand and unintentionally approached his head with it. Suddenly, he was standing before the children, transformed into a fox. They broke out with a deafening noise. This so frightened the little schoolmaster that he jumped out the window with a single leap. He ran to the hill that lay near the village and there built himself a den. One day, a great hunt was organized, and our fox was among those pursued by the huntsmen. A bullet hit him, and suddenly a schoolmaster was lying there before the bewildered huntsman. The bullet had struck the fox strap and ripped it apart. In memory of this event, the people of Dachau gave the name Foxhill to the place where their schoolmaster had lived. I assume the schoolmaster lived.
Not a cute story, it's a horrible story.
Content warning. Making a one-off reference to the thing I cut out earlier, so just fast forward 10 seconds. It's cute compared to Peter Stubbs' fucking fetus eating.
I guess, yeah, but
She probably, starved. Or got a new one.
That's sad.
I hope she got a new
starving
one.
grandma and a dead schoolmaster that just was trying to live his fox life.
I feel like she might have got a new one because she's cool enough to it. It doesn't sound like she got one from the devil.
Wow. Well, where else is it gone from? Foxes are red because the devil made them.
Straight up witchcraft. Just having fun, vibing. Welcome to Foxxo Esoterica. I literally do this daily.
I did watch The Witch, I guess.
The Witch.
The Witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Only written like that in Netflix, that's it.
It's a good movie. I really love A24 movies way more than most.
Although I feel like people from what was it, 1751?
I think that was 1500s verging on 1600s.
Yeah, it's
way before revolutionary stuff.
Founding fathers, it's just way
before that.
Stop talking. Oh right, the founding fathers were a different thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the pilgrims. There we go.
Yeah.
The pilgrims going on. I feel like they just talk like that to annoy modern people. I feel like there was a whole ass conference about okay, let's make up a language, like a form of English. Let's just take that, and we're gonna talk like that for like 100 years just to piss off people from like 2000 something.
And it was unfortunately the year Shakespeare got big.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Pissed me off.
and he had to like adhere to it because that's just kind of what the rule was back then. So everybody was just gonna do that for 100 years, and then they went back to regular English.
Prithee tell me, thine foxtrap is thine own burden, and by God shalt thee a whore. I like how the witch just uses you, whore. Like, that was just such a nice, sobering moment.
Yeah.
I'm glad they have cool words. Are cool. That's the takeaway here. Witches are cool. Werewolves are cool. Don't execute people. We hate the death penalty.
Should we summon a demon in the basement and record it for the
Like
podcast?
in the basement? It's so dirty.
Are you gonna summon one in the dining room? I'm not gonna.
Why would I
move the table around?
You don't have to move the table around.
Yeah, I do. We
Let's
need
do it in the
a
living
circle. The
Living
big
room.
circle.
Fine, we'll do it in the basement. Thus concludes our foray into the experience of German werewolves. It's been fun. It's been a little bit of a shallow dive in some parts, a deep dive in others, but it's a really interesting phenomena culturally. Which brings me to Connections Corner, which where I talk about how does this relate to the other stuff I've talked about on the podcast, because obviously it does. I talked about the dogman. But we kind of already brought that up. Like, it's, oh my god, German werewolf, folkloric. Dogman story, cryptid. Like, it's, like, people don't see German werewolves nowadays, obviously, because I hear about it. And people actually, Dogman and Beast of Bray Road have had, like, historical sightings from indigenous people / settler people, like, way before the modern era. But, like, the urbanization of both areas is kind of the same. Like, there's still the same amount of wild areas in both, so it's like, what's going on with that? Which makes me feel like German werewolves are more of an allegorical folklore thing and not as much a cryptid. Did that make sense?
I don't know. I wasn't listening.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're my guest. Are you on Facebook?
No, I was on Twitter looking at
Same.
scandals.
What's the goss on Twit?
What the goes on Twitter is?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, the election is coming up, so everything's horrible.
Yeah. God. When do you vote?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. Sometime in September, I think. Like, it's
That's
gonna be...
that's like coming up.
It's gonna be like a mindfuck for me because I have to figure out where I actually have to vote because I'll be moving to Essen in like August. But it's gonna be kind of a mindfuck because I'm moving. So by the time I'll be in the place, I have to see. I hope I'll be there to vote because I like voting, and I don't know if I'm too late to get a vote by mail thing going on. So yeah, but anyways, election's coming up. It's in September. It's a big one. So yeah. Because our chancellor's going away. But it's not counted up with podcast, I think. People aren't really voting in here for, German politics.
Maybe I got a couple. I got a couple people who are in Germany. Mostly people you know.
Aww.
Actually, I don't know if I've gotten our friends to listen to the podcast yet.
Listen to it.
Here's the thing. Making your friends listen to a podcast is a hard commitment. These are long episodes and not short episodes.
That's why I'm not listening to them.
Yeah, and I respect that because it's long and time-consuming, but you should listen to more.
Yes.
Interesting, though, what you were saying about the hot gossip on Twitter. Back to what I was talking about, though. I'm just talking about how does this relate to other stuff I've talked about on the podcast and my own personal opinions. I'm actually going to be a skeptic on this one. I think most werewolf legends are just people kind of turning it into a fun folklore story. I don't think a werewolf-type cryptid existed, and I don't think anybody, period, ever got a werewolf strap, because by God, we would hear about it by now as furries, and also find them. But I wish they were real.
I would pay top dollar for it.
I think I would literally cut off my hand. Myself.
I feel like that's a given though. Like, is it gonna regrow in my werewolf form?
I don't even care if it does.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that.
Yeah. Like, I'll be the fun ghost person, but werewolves in Germany, even the Moorbach monster, probably not real. Bach. Shoo. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this kind of, a lot of the stuff happens in the same place as the dancing plague, but the dancing plague, you wouldn't recall. You did not listen to that episode. A lot of people in the Alsace, Salzburg area just started dancing for no reason. And it went on for months, and people actually died. And nobody knows why they were dancing. Is it a curse? What happened? That sort of thing is happening at this time period. And so the narrative of what is supernatural changes so much with what the zeitgeist of the time is. Like, that sort of thing doesn't happen nowadays except for in Tanganyika in the 60s. Long-time fans know what I'm talking about. But the zeitgeist of what is paranormal changes so hardcore and also defines what is happening nowadays. Like, nobody will report a ghost Bigfoot stuff in the 1500s, and controversially, nobody has like a German werewolf in 2016 or something like that. And it's very weird to me that like what is culturally significant shapes what is a cryptid and what is a spirit at that point in time.
Sure is.
Did you follow that?
No.
You having fun? So there's really no connection between the dancing plague and this. It's just like, ooh, the same time period, and it's like 100 kilometers away. Interesting. I was talking about Marilud. I don't care. Marilud's boring. Well, Marilud's cool. Marilud is just literally a horse skull, and we're doing door-to-door during Christmas in Wales and getting alcohol from people for a rap
that
battle.
one, yeah, I heard about that one.
Did an episode on it. It was really cute.
You did an episode of that one?
Yeah. There's no actual supernatural component to it, which I thought there would be, but it's just literally people getting a horse skull and doing that.
I just know that's like a really weird, not weird, but like a furry artist who has like macro art, and he once took that one up and was like, oh yeah, you know, either give me alcohol or I'm gonna shrink you, and then he actually shrinks them even though they give him alcohol.
Oh.
I know, it's cute, isn't it?
I want that to happen. I have a lot of kinks, Foxxo Esoterica fans. Every time I bring them up, I feel like I'm chipping away at Zuma's soul.
Yeah, well, that one's better than the other ones.
Well, that concludes our episode on the Deutsche Werewölfe. Yes, I'm fully aware that I tackle werewolf content more than most things, but I do need you to know that I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Werewolves are hot. Speaking of hot, I'd like to once again thank my guest and the love of my life, Zuma Puma, for making his first appearance on the podcast.
Sure.
Cool. Now,
I don't know what you expected me to say right now. I don't know. I've been on the podcast. It was fun, having a good time. Did you want to say anything else?
No, that's all the written content I have. All the rest of the stuff is cold closing.
Nice that you're not letting me plug anything for my main
I literally asked you earlier if you wanted to plug anything. Did I not do that? Oh my god, I didn't. Oh my god, I skipped that. Mwah. What do you want to plug? I fucking suck.
I have nothing to plug really, except, I don't know, the Hearts of Iron 4 mod, the new order. It's
just getting into the Nazi thing, aren't we?
It's a very ambitious modding project for Hearts of Iron 4. I'm not involved with it in any way, but it's a good mod. So if you like alternate history, take a look at that one. It's one where the Nazis won World War II, and it's like even more horrible than you might have imagined. It's great.
That's a good plug.
Thank you.
The German werewolf. That's the other thing. Every time I type in German werewolf, I didn't put this in the script.
Oh, that's actually, yeah, okay.
I know what it is.
Yeah, you can, I don't know, you can edit that like into the podcast.
I will. This is a good place for it.
But because it's like actually kind of interesting, because when you talk about German werewolf, the first thing that might pop up when you look for it is actually the Nazi operation of that name, where they just had like prepared civilian units, you know, usually people that were part of the SA or the SS, but mostly the SA because that was kind of the civilian organization of the, you know, Nazi party, to be terrorists in a possible post-war Germany. It didn't take off much, but they did get around to, you know, executing a lot of people that they felt were, you know, hurting the war effort in the last days of the war. Luckily, it didn't work though as a plan because all those people kind of didn't do any terrorism following World War II.
Yeah.
It's very horrifying though what they planned because it was supposed to actually just go straight up, you know, bomb the civilians, kill everyone, just do everything to get the people to leave Germany or whatever. It's kind of horrifying, to be honest.
Not for naught. Did they do anything about that in the TNO?
Well, no, because Germany didn't lose.
Oh, good. I mean, like when they did German Civil War type stuff.
Oh, it's a good question, actually. Yeah, I guess a little bit with the SS path. Every time you like take over.
This is really niche stuff.
Yeah, you can probably cut it out in the end, but it's like kind of interesting how they ended up. Like when you take over the SS places, it's always like a hard fight because they just have civilians there. They just strap explosive belts on and say, "Walk towards the enemy, or we're gonna skin your newborn alive." And it's like, yeah, like what are you gonna do? So you walk towards them, they just blow you up from remotely. Because the SS is kind of not great people all along.
Well, I'm glad that the podcast is great to contextualize stuff.
Absolutely.
And now that we've stopped cutting that part out, yeah, that's the part about I don't know what, I guess the etymology works, but it makes my research sad because I type stuff in like that and I'm like, oh, this is on my browser history. All things are miserable. But yeah, that's my foray into German werewolves besides the one we just talked about.
Yeah.
Any concluding thoughts before we put a little pausey on the episode?
I like the stories. I like the mix of stories you had there. You had, you know, the classic medieval ones where you were like, oh yeah, like it was probably a murderer, but they were like pretty convinced that it was just like a mystical being. You had this sighting in the 90s, the classic, you know, cryptid thing.
Yeah,
by, you know, whatever, like park ranger or a soldier or whatever, because those are the guys that are always like in the most remote corners and they're trustworthy, I guess. And yeah, it was just a good all-around mix of like folklore stories and sightings and stuff. Even though you said at the beginning it's like really hard to come up with these kind of sightings in a country that has as much of a folklore history as Germany.
It's way more folklorically rich here than it is in the States, unless you count stories written by indigenous native people, which usually were written away because we were colonializing and making the oral tradition not stick around.
The EU specifically was more like the British.
To a degree, I'm British, I feel like.
Disgusting.
I know, I hate to admit it. It's in my blood.
No reason. Trash.
Everything is miserable.
Basically. Nice.
All of the German werewolves are fun. Folklore is fun. I kind of love folklore as much as I love cryptids because it's different, you know? There's a degree of, this is what people believed back then, but is it any weirder than what I believe currently? No. Anyway, here's Review Corner. Well, that concludes our episodes on Deutsche Werewölfe. Yeah, I kind of am bad at segueing, but I wasn't sober when I recorded that, so woohoo! Also, I am fully aware that I tackle werewolf content more than most things. I do need you to know that that's not going to stop anytime soon. Werewolves are hot. Speaking of hot, I'd once again love to thank my guest and the love of my life, Zuma Puma, for making his first appearance on the podcast. Love you, Han! Now, let's get to the review corner. This review corner goes out to my German-speaking listeners, because tonight I had a really hard time finding something to find Google reviews for, so I actually ended up finding the Werewolf Wanderweg near Bedburg, Deutschland. That's a hiking trail. I think it was by Peter Stubbs, so they just named a trail after him. Ingo says, tolle große Spielplatz und sehr schöner Weg den See. Auch mit kleinen Kindern ohne Mirren zu machen. Ortskern von Altkaster superschön. Ein gelungener Winternachmittag. 5 Sterne. Rebecca Rahn says, okay, schöne Gegend. 3 Sterne. Wanderblogs says, interessante Wanderweg. Es gibt einige Informationstafeln am Wegesrand. 4 Sterne. This bed is fantastic, and you're wrong if you think otherwise. Well, that concludes the episode for real now. You can find Foxxo Esoterica on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at FORSETIFOX, and you can support Foxxo Esoterica on Patreon and Ko-fi. It would be really nice to have a really easy time immigrating with more money, so keep that in mind. Thanks again to Sun El Chiquito for the podcast artwork. All research, recording, editing, and music is done by yours truly. Now I'm gonna end this episode with a classic werewolf. Ow! Because I'm furry trash. Good night, everybody.